So today's featurette is on the Hagia Sophia, which is a mosque in Istanbul, Turkey. 2 weeks ago, we had a talk on the Trinity. And one of the theories we discussed was that the Holy Spirit might symbolize the Sophia. The Sophia is the mysterious feminine aspect of God, referred to as wisdom in the Proverbs, and as the Sophia in the book of Ecclesiasticus, which is part of the Apocrypha. So as I was preparing that talk 2 weeks ago, I did some research on the Hagia Sophia, but we didn't have enough time to include it that day. So I decided to create a featurette. And as I was preparing today's featurette, I realized that I want to share many things about Turkey with you. So I decided to have a 3-part featurette. And today we will discuss the Hagia Sophia. We'll discuss the general geography of Turkey and why you should know about it. Then on June 12th, we'll discuss some of the things I learned when I went to Turkey in 2007. I took a tour that was called In the Footsteps of the Apostle Paul. And then on Father's Day, June 19th, we will share the influence of Ataturk. Ataturk was the leader of Turkey in the early 1900s, and he is known as the father of modern Turkey. And so we begin. In many ways, the Hagia Sophia represents the religious and cultural history of Turkey. It was built in 537 and called the Church of Holy Wisdom. That's what those two words, Hagia Sophia, it's what they mean, holy wisdom. And it was built in Constantinople, which is what Istanbul used to be called. It was, and may still be, I don't know, the largest church in Eastern Orthodox Christianity. In 1453, Constantinople fell to the Ottomans, and it was converted to a mosque. The minarets were added in the 15th and 16th centuries. Then in 1935, this was under the leadership of Ataturk, the Republic of Turkey. It was a non-sectarian government, turned it into a museum. And then in 2020, it was reconverted back to a mosque and is called now the Hagia Sophia Grand Mosque. It is still open to the public, and people of all faiths are invited to tour. This is the inside. Now, the remodeling of this building with each conversion was quite a challenge. The architects usually took care to preserve ancient art while honoring the symbols of other religious traditions. You can see here the big round plaques like that have the Islamic symbols on them. And many things were plastered over rather than destroyed. And years later, they'd find frescoes behind the plaster. When it was a museum, there were symbols of both the Christian and Islamic faiths shown. You can see here, this is definitely a Christian looking structure, as is the front altar. If we look at the interior with this close up, we can see the aging and know what a challenge it has been for this country, as many countries who are the keepers of our history, of the ancient artifacts, to keep them in good repair. This slide, how beautiful it is, shows the inside at night with the candelabras, and they are suspended from the ceiling by chains. And those chains are very, very long, and they truly are candles. They may be electric by now, but they were candles when I went. And you'll notice up at the top of this picture, you can see part of the dome on the top. And this is what the dome looks like from the inside. Now this slide, which is a night view, if you look closely, right over here is the Hagia Sophia. This building is the Blue Mosque, which is another very famous mosque in Istanbul. In 1616, and you know, that was about 1100 years after the Hagia Sophia was built, the Sultan Ahmed, had a mosque built that was bigger than the Hagia Sophia. And it's called the Blue Mosque because it has a lot of blue tiles in it. The official name is the Sultan Ahmed Mosque. I've been inside both of these. We toured both of them in 2007, though the Hagia Sophia was still a museum then, and I imagine it's been redecorated since it's become a mosque again. And then this picture is of the Blue Mosque, and you can see the position of Istanbul on the water. And this body of water is called the Sea of Marmara. Show of hands, how many of you have ever heard of the Sea of Marmara? I had never heard of it when I went either. Besides that, it's a little bit difficult to say, but it is exceedingly important in world history. And this brings us to the geographical section of our featurette. And we're going to start top down, as they say in the programming business. We look at the big picture first. This is Turkey, the red country in the middle of this is the Eastern Hemisphere of our globe. And if you look at it, this is the Mediterranean, this is Europe, this is Asia, this is Africa, and here is Turkey in the middle of it all. Turkey is where east meets west and north meets south. So then as we zoom in a little bit closer, we're looking now at the western end, the eastern end of the Mediterranean. And we see Italy here and Greece. And this inlet is the Aegean. This is the Aegean Sea, which is part of the Mediterranean Sea, just like the Caribbean is part of the Atlantic. Okay, the Aegean Sea here. And we have Turkey, and we have the Black Sea. And this gives you a way of becoming oriented. It's north of the Holy Land. Lebanon and Israel are further down on the eastern end of the Mediterranean. And this is a similar collection of countries, but here you can see what they are, and this is important. Turkey, for a fairly small country, has a lot of shoreline, and yet it still manages to border 7 different countries. Turkey borders Bulgaria, Greece, Syria, Iraq and Iran, Armenia, and Georgia. And another reason that I show you this is that the Black Sea here also is a shore for Russia, this big yellow, and the Ukraine. It's a very prominent feature of this part of the world. And then this is our final slide, because now we're going to get to the Sea of Marmara. This is Istanbul and the Sea of Marmara, and the Black Sea and the Aegean. We already pointed all of those out. Between the Black Sea and the Sea of Marmara is the Bosphorus Straits, the Straits of the Bosphorus. And in between the Sea of Marmara and the Aegean are the Dardanelles. Now, how many of you ever heard of these straits before? See, I learned about them in the 4th grade. I remember 9 years old. I remember learning about the Dardanelles and the Bosphorus, and I wanted to go. So I didn't really know where they were, but I was very excited when I finally got to go. But you can see the shipping routes from all those countries we looked at around the Black Sea, including Russia and the Ukraine, can go through the Bosphorus, then through the Sea of Marmara, out through the Dardanelles into the Aegean, and they are in the Mediterranean. And from there, they can go anywhere. They can go anywhere. Istanbul is on 2 continents, because what we're talking about right here is the boundary between Europe and Asia. So Istanbul is a city that is on 2 continents, and that makes Turkey a country that is on 2 continents. Istanbul is not the capital. Ankara, right here in the middle, is the capital. Turkey also forms a land bridge between these 2 continents and between these seas. And it was a major caravan route. The Silk Road, which is a very famous caravan that came back carrying silk from the Orient, went through Turkey. So it was an important position to be in for shipping on the water and for overland transportation. Just all this in one little country. Turkey is one of the crossroads of the world. It has the vital land and sea routes for commerce. It's on 2 continents, Europe and Asia. It is the historical center of 2 great religions, Christianity and Islam. And it is the location of many famous biblical and historical sites. If you may be familiar with the missions of Paul, every time he was going to Asia Minor, we don't talk about Asia Minor in today's world. This is the part of the world he was going to. And that's where we're going to pick this up on the 12th of June when we have part 2 of this featurette. I hope you've enjoyed this. I hope you don't mind that we mixed it up a little bit. And thus does in today's featurette. And now we'll have another song.